Hi, my name's Eric, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk once again about Madonna. Today, as you requested in my last Madonna poll, I'm going to react to her 2012 album MDNA, the deluxe version, and break down the album's lyrics. Before I dive in, let me know in the comments down below what Madonna album I should react to next. I only have 3 of her standard studio albums left, which is absolutely wild to me. It's been so much fun getting to know Madonna's music, so thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Check the description for a link to a list of nonprofits you can donate to. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos pretty much every week, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my videos go live. Without further ado, track number 1 is Girl Gone Wild.
Oh my God, I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins, and I want so badly to be good.
That sounded familiar.
It's so hypnotic, the way it pulls on me. It's like the pulse of gravity right up under my feet. It's so erotic, I got that burning hot desire. No one can put out the fire. Got me saying, hey, 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 like a girl gone wild, like a girl gone wild. Girls, they just wanna have some fun. Girl gone wild, like a girl gone wild. The room is spinning, it must be the Tanqueray. I'm about to go astray, my inhibitions gone away. I'm coming right down to the wire. Here it comes, when I hear them 808 drums. It's got me singing, hey, 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 like a girl gone wild, like a girl gone wild. Girls, they just wanna have some fun. I know, I shouldn't act this way. I know, good girls don't misbehave, but I'm a bad girl anyway. Forgive me. Girls, they just wanna have some fun. Wild, like a girl gone wild. I'll make a girl gone wild, like a girl gone wild.
Okay, some of you told me that this was Madonna's EDM album, and that is definitely accurate. This is the sound of my early teens, so it actually is pretty nostalgic for me. There's sort of a slight distinction in that way between this sound and the sound of a lot of Rebel Heart, because Rebel Heart was slightly more recent, so it didn't have quite as much of that nostalgia factor, even though this sound and the sound of Rebel Heart were both very on trend for Madonna. And in classic Madonna fashion, she opens the album with this sort of Catholic prayer or confession, which directly echoes Act of Contrition, which is the closer from Like a Prayer. But of course, this is delivered with a layer of irony because she goes on to talk about indulging in all of these, I guess, sins on the dance floor. She's playing off the good girl gone bad trope here, but 20 years out from erotica, I don't think Madonna is tracking her own transition into a more adult image or anything like that. If this does track anything in her real life, it probably is closer to what some of you also told me about in the comments, which is that this album followed her divorce. We just have the initial sort of building blocks here, but in general, the impression I'm getting is Madonna is becoming a bad girl by asserting herself and liberating herself from a situation where she might have felt stifled, and particularly from the sort of shame that she's been taught by her religious upbringing, again, something she's talked about on many of her other albums. So maybe there's an incipient parallel between her rejecting this type of puritanical suppression and some sort of emotional baggage that she might have had in her now ended relationship. Track number 2, I regret to inform you, was called Gangbang. Ooh, okay. That's a little darker, I like that. Okay, dubstep. Nice.
How could I move on with my life if you didn't die for me, baby? Bang, bang, shut your bitch, my lover in the head. And if I see that bitch in hell, I'm gonna shoot him in the head again. Over and over and over and over now, drive, bitch. Now, if you're gonna act like a bitch, then you're gonna die like a bitch.
I think I love that song. Oh, there was so much just amazingly audacious stuff going on. It reminds me in that way of Dark Ballet because Dark Ballet was just so out there, and this song was just Madonna at her angriest, which I love. Again, the sound definitely reminds me of the music made 10 years ago, but the production on this song was really playful and fun, as was Madonna's performance. She changed her vocal delivery in some fun ways, added more grit and things like that. The sort of sound effects like the shell casing falling and tires screeching and police chatter, all of that really made the song a lot of fun. I feel like the whole passage about driving could be a sort of oblique reference to the fact that Madonna's ex directed her video for What It Feels Like for a Girl, which involves a lot of action involving driving. I'm relieved that the lyrics to the song have fairly little to do with the title, but the general impression I'm getting is Madonna saying, I'm going to kill you before you kill me. I'm going to cut off this relationship before you have the chance to do me any more harm. Madonna talks about how her lover was leading her to her death. He was building a coffin and driving a hearse, and so of course she says, bang, bang, I shot you in the head and I have no regrets. I don't know if this is a direct reference, but it reminds me a lot of the Nancy Sinatra song Bang Bang, where Nancy uses being shot down as a metaphor for being hurt or rejected by her lover. So Madonna turns that around here. She is the one doing the killing. She's the one claiming power. There's also a current running through here and the last song about her womanhood. She opens the song by saying that she's like a bitch out of order, like a bat out of hell. Older women in particular are often described as bats or as baddies, so Madonna is taking these sort of misogynistic pejoratives and turning them around and saying, yeah, I am wild and I can't be controlled, but that's why I'm powerful. Track number 3 is I'm Addicted.
When did your name change from a word to a child? Say if your name is somewhere between a prayer and a shout. Seems like a drug and I can't get enough, and it fits like a glove. I'm addicted to your love. I'm addicted to your love. I'm addicted. I'm addicted. Now that your name pumps like the blood in my veins, pulls through my body, igniting my mind. It's like MDNA. I'm addicted to your love. I'm addicted. I'm addicted to your love. Something happens to me when I hear your voice. Something happens to me and I have no choice. And it fits like a glove. I'm addicted to your love. I'm addicted.
Okay, I don't know if it's just my nostalgia, but the production's really working for me. It's so energetic and so much fun. It is very club ready, which of course fits perfectly with the theme of this song as well. The song, of course, is structured around addiction as an age-old metaphor for love. I don't know for sure if this is about a new lover who is replacing Madonna's ex, or if this is about the process of Madonna becoming infatuated with her ex and losing her power to him, because as I've talked about before, addiction is sort of a shorthand for disempowerment. But a moment that stood out to me was on the second verse when Madonna compares her lover to MDMA, which is another name for ecstasy, a party drug. This, of course, is the basis for the title of the album, which is a combination of this drug and Madonna's name. I think it's meant to imply that Madonna herself is drug-like, that she is addictive and powerful, but not really in this particular song. But again, it's a drug associated with party culture and EDM, and as usual, Madonna's power in her personal life coincides with this power through her music. But character-wise, for now, Madonna either is showing that she's vulnerable by becoming addicted to this person, or she's just being indulgent like she set up on the opener. Maybe we'll figure out which one on track number 4, Turn Up the Radio.
When the world starts to get you down and nothing seems to go your way, to feel the wind in your face and the skin, and it's here I begin my story. Turn up the radio, I'm leaving the past behind. Nothing's ever what it seems. I don't know how I got to this day. Let me out of my cage 'cause I'm trying. Turn up the radio. I just wanna get in my car. I wanna go fast and I gotta go far. I turn up the radio until the speakers blow.
Okay, so this is another song that not only, I think, tracks Madonna's real life pretty neatly, but also makes a solid case for not only the universality, but also the power of dance music, something that Madonna, again, has talked about in a lot of her music. Because when Madonna uses metaphors like being let out of a cage to talk about feeling liberated by dance music, we also can interpret that as being about her freeing herself from a relationship that was bad for her. But of course, that also captures a central ethos of dance music, which is, again, liberation and escapism. Madonna also situates herself as having power over this music again. She basically says, life gets rough and then you need an escape, and that's where I come in to make this music for you, and I guess for herself as well. We've got a couple more motifs going on here, first being driving being a pretty common image of escape, and also this motif of death that she set up on Gangbang, whereas there her lover was killing her. Here she sort of sets up the, I guess, catharsis of death or self-destruction on the dance floor, the sort of sinful indulgences that she set up on the opener with, again, that sort of spiritual death that she experienced in her relationship. So this is yet another affirmation of life and of Madonna's purpose in making this music, to liberate herself and her listeners. Track number 5 is Give Me All Your Lovin' featuring Nicki Minaj and MIA.
L-U-V, Madonna, Y-O-U, you wanna? I see you coming and I don't wanna know your name. Would you like to try? Give me a reason why. Give me all that you got. Don't play the stupid game 'cause I'm a different kind of girl. Give me all your love and give me your love. Give me all your love today. Keep trying, don't give up. It's if you want it bad enough. L-U-V, Madonna. In another place at a different time, you can be my lucky star. Every record sounds the same. You gotta step into my world. Give me all your love and give me your love. Give me all your love, boy. You can be my boy, you can be my boy toy. I'm Roman, I'm a barbarian, I'm Conan. You was sleeping on me, you was dozing. Now move, I'm Conan. Supersonic, bionic, uranium hit. So I break 'em off tricks. Let's play that it's tricks. Let's forget about time and dance our lives away.
Okay, that was really cute. Definitely sort of more retro feeling. I like the cheerleader chanting that's used really well also on the song Kill V Main by Grimes. I definitely have heard the song before. I believe Madonna and Nicki and MIA performed it at the Super Bowl. Nicki and MIA both had pretty short features, but with Nicki's rapid fire delivery, she did more, I think, in that small time than MIA could, so it would have been nice to have heard more of MIA. I am personally a very big fan of hers, actually. I'm actually surprised now that she didn't appear later on Madam X because she has that sort of global perspective in her music. In any case, the song was really fun, and I think it's actually one of those songs where sequencing and context really matter and change the meaning. Because Madonna's been talking about how in her now ended relationship, she wasn't treated the way she should have been treated, and she sort of implicitly might be attributing this in part to her tendency to fall really hard for people she's infatuated with and become addicted and susceptible to them. So a lot of the lyrics in this song feel a lot more protective of herself and almost like she's standing at the gate and seeing what someone has to offer her instead of the other way around, saying things like, "You'd better change the game if you think you are worthy of me." She is in a power position, which is very different from her being addicted before. And so the rest of the lyrics are pretty much just bragging, like, "Look at me, I'm all this woman and you'd better meet my standards." So the general trend we've got going on here is one of self-empowerment, which is nice because in a typical breakup album or a divorce album, if you could even call it that, you might expect an artist to wallow, but that's not Madonna's style. Track number 6 is Some Girls.
Some girls can do anything. Whole world hanging on a string. Some girls got a sexy flirt. One drink and it's all a blur. Cash out if you wanna flirt. Some girls make a scene, shoot their mouth and talk obscene, crying in the limousine. Some girls are like me. I'm everything you ever dreamed of. Some girls wanna hold it tight. Come first, wanna be on top. Gotta work till you hit the spot. Some girls make you feel like a rocket hard as steel. Some girls only ever like to tease. I got you I'm not gonna rest. Some girls are second best. Put your love into the test, you'll see.
Okay, so this song definitely muffles Madonna's voice a bit more, and there's more distortion and heavier bass, but Madonna's voice in general on this album has sounded really good and really clear. Lyrically, the song is basically in the same vein as the last, with Madonna bragging about herself. She says on the chorus, "I'm everything you ever dreamed of, I got you begging, baby, please." It's not super complicated. These songs are about feeling powerful, feeling romantic, feeling desired and admired and wanted, possibly after a period where Madonna didn't feel any of those things. And of course, when she's talking about being powerful, she brings up her musical legacy, and there are some references to her past songs, some that are more subtle than others. We have references to Like a Virgin on the first verse, and then later to Express Yourself on the bridge when she says, "Some girls are second best, put your love to the test." You know, it's not her most girl power lyric, but it's all part of a process of hyping herself up after feeling put down. Track number 7 is Superstar.
You're like Brando on the silver screen. You're my hero in a mythical dream. Ooh la la, you're my superstar. I'm your biggest fan. It's true. You can have the keys to my car. I'll play you a song on my guitar. You're my gangster. You're like El Capone. You're like Caesar. Stepping onto the throne. You're your biggest fan. It's true. Hopelessly attracted to you. Ooh la la, you're my superstar. Ooh la la, love the way that you are. You're Bruce Lee with the way that you move. You're Travolta getting into your groove. Ooh la la, that's what you are. Ooh la la, ooh la la, you're my superstar.
Okay, so that was sweet. This is another song where Madonna, just like on I'm Addicted, takes a really well-worn central metaphor for love. Again, one that she's used before, treating her lover as an idol or as a superstar, which again puts her in a disempowered position. She even says, I will let you take the keys to my car. And we know from some of the prior songs here that driving represents freedom. So she's basically saying, I would let you take away my freedom. But she also calls her lover James Dean. So the association between James Dean and driving a car isn't exactly positive. She calls him, Julius Caesar. So again, there's this implication from this death motif that things aren't 100% right here. Again, I'm not sure chronologically if this is her talking about how she fell in love with her ex, or if this is a new person who she feels is worthy of her because maybe he is on her level. Maybe someone, like, she compares him to Michael Jordan or someone like that is on par with Madonna. But either way, we still have this back and forth between these songs where Madonna is defensive and in power, and songs where she lets her guard down and becomes vulnerable again. So I guess we just have to find out where she'll land on that spectrum. Track number 8 is I Don't Give a featuring Nicki Minaj.
Wake up, ex-wife, this is your life. Children on your own, turning on the telephone, connecting to the Wi-Fi. Away from that to the club. Have you seen a new guy? I forgot the password. Gotta call the babysitter, tweeting on the elevator. I'm gonna be okay. I don't care what the people say. I do 10 things all at once, and if you have a problem, I don't care.
Okay.
You were so mad at me, who's got custody? Lawyers, suck it up, didn't have a prenup. Make a film about a song, gotta get my stockings on. Gotta sign the contract, gotta get my money back. All the bodies have to go scatter in the front door. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna live fast and I'm gonna live right. I'm on the best, can you follow my track? I'm on the best and I like it like that. I tried to be a good girl. I tried to be your wife. Diminish myself. And I swallowed my life. Shots fire. Anything you hear, Nikki, you on that spire. You don't hear them drums doing nothing that's fire. I ain't a businesswoman, I'm a businesswoman. And I'm known for giving the businesswoman. I'm gonna be okay. There's only one queen, and that's Madonna.
Okay, that song definitely changed a lot over the course of its runtime. Started out sort of as a almost Y2K feeling R&B song, and then after Nicki's feature turned into a whole cinematic experience. And in line with that, this is where the album really opens up because Madonna is actually giving us some insights and some specifics about this relationship and her divorce. Specifically that she didn't have a prenup. Should have had a prenup. And she's not only explaining the circumstances surrounding the album or the backstory to the album, but also why the album sounds the way it does. The style of the verses, I think, is really effective lyrically because they're basically just laundry lists of all of these chaotic things in her life swirling around her, and they work really well to give us just a glimpse into how overwhelming all of this must have been. On the chorus, she says, I'm gonna be okay, I don't care what the people say, sort of more positive affirmations, but I still might have been wondering why she made the album sound so upbeat and positive when it's sort of about all of these negative and stressful situations. And she tells us why on the bridge when she says, I tried to be a good girl, I tried to be your wife, diminished myself, and swallowed my light. And so this album as a whole is about subverting those things, not being a good girl, but being a bad girl, not diminishing herself, but praising herself, not swallowing her light, but letting it shine. Track number 9 is I'm a Sinner.
Like the sun, like the light, like the flame, like the storm, I've been through everything. I'm a sinner, I like it that way. All the boys and girls wanna be like us tonight. I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner, I like it that way. I wake up with my head in the fire. Get my kicks
Okay, I really enjoyed that outro, and like I said, with the last song, Madonna has felt like she has had to tamp her light, so now she wants to let it shine. So she opens the song by saying, like the sun, like the light, like a plane, like the storm. So she shines, she flies, but still she is the storm. She is this chaos, I guess this aggressive resistance to feeling like she has to be controlled and like she has to be a good girl. And because of that, she says she's a sinner. In order to feel fulfilled and to express herself, she has to break some boundaries and ruffle some feathers, which is what's defined much of her career. So on the bridge, she invokes all of these Catholic holy figures and says, all those saints and holy men, catch me before I sin again. I feel like she's saying, I do want to be saved, just not right now. I need to keep sinning, keep breaking boundaries, and keep finding what makes me feel fulfilled before I can settle down and stop fighting to assert myself. Track 10 is Love Spent. I love the rare appearance of acoustic instrumentation on this album. It's really refreshing. Okay, I'm really enjoying the tracks that I feel are more revelatory about the relationship. Not that I feel like Madonna has to expose all of these intimate details of her personal life to make something compelling, but I think it just so happens that those are the tracks on this album where Madonna feels the most passionate and where that specificity really helps me connect with her. And I think it's interesting that she would reserve a lot of these details and the sort of deeper feelings for the back half of the album, which I think she did before on albums like American Life. The concept of the song is pretty clear. Madonna felt like she was used for her money in this relationship, and that to her ex, this relationship was transactional. So the title of the song is a riff on the use of the word spent to mean exhausted, again in both senses of the word. Like a person might say, I'm spent to mean I'm just totally tired, but spent also refers to using money, so Madonna's saying that she feels wrung out by her ex for her money, but also emotionally. In the second half of the song, she used the expression "Till Death Do Us Part," which is the name of one of my favorite songs from Like a Prayer. That song was more explicitly about a physically abusive relationship, but there's this subtle connection between, throughout Madonna's life, these negative relationships with men who mistreat her. So maybe this album in particular is a turning point for Madonna where she feels like she needs to express her self-worth so that she doesn't experience this type of mistreatment in any form ever again. Track number 11 is Masterpiece.
If you were the Mona Lisa, you'd be hanging in the Louvre. It seems to me that's what you are, a rare and priceless work of art.
Her voice sounds great.
And I'm right by your side, like a thief in the night. I stand in front of a masterpiece. Nothing's indestructible. From the moment I first saw you, all the darkness turned to white. It seems to me it's what you like. The look, but please don't touch me tight. Can't tell you why it hurts so much to be in love with a masterpiece. And I'm right
was really strong for me. Really beautiful melody, great vocal performance, and a lot more vulnerable, and especially with that stripped back production, I think it works really well. Madonna sometimes likes to end her albums on a sort of unsettled note where things aren't resolved, and I think she might be leaning in that direction here because this is the second to last track of the standard version of the album. And something that I noted mentally but didn't say out loud about the last song is that Madonna mentioned that she wanted still for her ex to love her. And that's understandable, right? After making that type of emotional investment and not just financial investment. And that sort of set off, I think, here a sequence where Madonna has gone even farther into the past where she was fully in love with this person. She says on the chorus, "Like a thief in the night, I stand in front of the masterpiece, and I can't tell you why it hurts so much to be in love with a masterpiece." First of all, feeling like a thief is pretty revealing because if she wanted to get his love, she felt like she had to steal it. She couldn't just get it from him organically like she should have. So there's this weird broken exchange going on where on the last song she gave him her money voluntarily, and on other songs she talks about giving him her car keys and her privacy and her body, I guess. But here we know that he's not giving her anything in return. He's like behind this velvet rope, he's up on the wall. She can't really contact him emotionally. She also uses this painting metaphor to describe him as sort of an impression or like a pointillist rendering of himself. Just this visual idea of him that lacks clarity. It's not the full emotional person. She's in love with the idea of him now. So yeah, kind of a bummer of a second to last track for the standard version of the album, which leads us to the final standard track, track number 12, Falling Free.
When I move a certain way, I feel an ache I'd kept at bay. And pure social it struck a vein. I wanted you to feel the same. So when you did ignite a spark, rescue me from all this dark. I'm falling free. And see our hearts are intertwined. When I raise a certain wing and crawl beneath that growing thing, it's enough, and what you give is what I love. And when you lift, you raise the sail, and then I'm free to fail. Deep and pure, our hearts align, and then I'm free of mine. When I lose a certain claim that tries to know and needs to blame, the face of God that stands above, pouring over hope and love, that all of might and life in them could turn around and love again. I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling free. We're both free, free to go.
Wow, and that is how the standard version of the album ends. That was an absolute highlight for me. I love the instrumental, the combination of sort of subtle electronic elements and the strings. The melody was beautiful, the vocal performance was beautiful, and the lyrics were really strong on this track. I think what we learned from this track is that the thing keeping the relationship alive was its physical dimension, not something emotional or substantial, really. She specifically locates emotions in the body, which is something that she did on I'm Addicted, which was also about that physical connection. Like here, she talks about her pain being in her bones and his passion being in his veins and somewhere else. So that's when, as she says on the chorus, their hearts are intertwined when they are connecting physically. When she says she's falling free, she feels liberated, right? Just like the way she felt liberated by her music, and maybe she even feels like her lover will catch her, but she's still falling. She's still being dragged down by these feelings. And towards the end of the song, God reappears, and Madonna says that he gives her hope that all of might and life and limb could turn around and love again. In this moment of connection, something tells her that maybe this will work out. And what's really tragic is that we know this belief is misguided because she's already told us how the story ends. All right, moving on to the bonus tracks. Track number 13 is Beautiful Killer.
Dark eyes on a dangerous face, you are a beautiful killer. you're a beautiful killer. Hurt yourself, but you never die. You are a beautiful killer. Makes me wanna pray for a haunted man. Can't really talk with a gun in my mouth. Maybe that's what you've been dreaming about. 'Cause you're a beautiful killer. I need to know how the story goes. Are we together? I love you forever. But you'll never be alone.
Nice. Okay. I love the use of strings, of course, on the song. I'd be interested to hear how this song would have been placed within the album, sort of like how Madonna, I believe, in the deluxe version of Madame X, put the bonus tracks in the album, like where she would have wanted them to be sequenced. What's interesting about the song is that Madonna introduces, just for the briefest moment, something that was missing from the rest of the album, which was a little bit of sympathy for her ex, because she calls him a haunted man. Maybe it would have been an interesting opportunity to explore a bit more of his perspective, but I think it also might have undermined the focus of this album on Madonna's own healing, because there's a difference between explaining and justifying how her ex hurt her, but I feel like one could feed into the other, and if she gave him too much of his own backstory, then maybe it would have undermined her own story. But a particularly clever moment on the song is when Madonna refers to her ex as a wanted man. Of course, he is this guy that people pursue. She refers to him as, a masterpiece and all of these things that someone would desire, but also he is wanted for the ways that he hurts her and presumably maybe his exes. But it's this pun and this double life that captures, I think, his duplicitousness, because on the surface, he looks like this masterpiece. He looks like this attractive, amazing, talented guy, but when you get to know him, that's when he starts to hurt you. Track number 14 is I F'd Up.
I made a mistake. Nobody does it better than myself. I'm so ashamed. You're in so much pain. I blamed you when things didn't go my way. Maybe I should have turned silver into gold, but in front of you I was cold. I wish I could take you back, but I can't. I thought we were indestructible. I never imagined we could fall. We could have bought a house with a swimming pool, fill it up with walls, it would be so cool. Could have gone riding stallions in the countryside with a pack of great dames racing eye to eye. We could have lived like crazy till the day we died. Instead, I made you cry. I wish I could have you back maybe one day.
Okay, I really like the sort of progression in the beat on that song. I think the way that it sped up when Madonna was getting excited, fantasizing about this life she could have had, that worked super well. It's interesting how this arc is happening that I think actually flows pretty well into the bonus tracks, where Madonna reached her lowest lows of despair about this divorce and now is sort of reconsidering things like, you were a killer but you were beautiful, you were haunted, and now she's moved even farther and sort of blamed herself for this divorce, which we know from the rest of the album is not her fault, but in this moment of weakness, she's starting to look back and think, maybe I was wrong. On the second verse, Madonna says, I thought we were indestructible, which calls back to Masterpiece, where she said nothing is indestructible. And as we know, Masterpiece was about being just in love with the idea of a person, with his image or his facade, and in that moment of being just so infatuated with him, Madonna thought, maybe this could work out. And of course, we know that it could not, whether it was because of his mistakes or hers or both. So again, on the one hand, we have this intense physical romance, and on the other, this deeply deficient emotional relationship. Also, I think when Madonna apologizes in French here, it's a callback to Sorry from Confessions on a Dance Floor, where she apologized in a bunch of different languages. On that song, she was rejecting an apology, so the subtle connection here might be just these different failed attempts at reconciliation, again telling us that this relationship is not salvageable. Track 15 is Birthday Song featuring MIA.
And the beat goes on. I'm a happy girl. It's my birthday song. I know it's gonna be a good day
So that was odd. Also, at least the fourth, I think, Madonna song that I've listened to mention spanking. Of course, we're back in the happy, escapist mindset, and one thing we know about Madonna is that she has a lot of nostalgia for mid-century pop, especially like 60s girl groups, as we know from the later song Crazy from Madam X. And because it's Madonna's birthday, she's really ready for her lover to give her her birthday present. Read between the lines. So again, we have these different types of escapism, nostalgia, and physical intimacy being the big ones here. Madonna even says she's in her own happy little world. After a few tracks in a row about Madonna's emotional pain, she's ready to recede into herself and just block out the rest. All right, the final track, track number 16, is Best Friend.
I miss your brain, the way you think, but I don't miss the way you used to drink. It's so confusing, I thought I met my match. An intellectual with talent for the catch. Your pictures off my wall, but I'm still waiting for your call. Did I have no regrets? 'Cause I survived the biggest test. But I feel like I lost my very best friend. You made me laugh, you had a clever wit. I miss the good times, I don't miss all of it. And every man that walks through that door will be compared to you forevermore. No regrets, but I feel like I lost my very best friend. Yet I have no regrets, but I feel like I lost my very best friend. It's so sad that it had to end.
And that is how the album ends. I like the sort of more aggressive, chaotic feeling of this last track. It reminds me of Quicksand from Björk's album Vulnicura, which is also about a divorce. The song actually explains Masterpiece a bit more and gives us more insight into what attracted Madonna to her ex in the first place, which was his talent. Of course, she would see him as a masterpiece or a superstar if she also saw him as a master of his art in the first place. Again, I don't know if this track would have fit in the standard version of the album because it is so generous to her ex, but I think it fits nicely in this sort of epilogue we have with these bonus tracks, with I think Madonna tracking her own process of reconciliation. And part of that process, I think, is looking back on this situation with more nuance. Like she says, not all of it was good, but not all of it was bad either. But unfortunately for Madonna, when she shakes her anger, loses that physical connection, and stops trying to distract herself, she has to confront her feelings head on, and what she's left with is a feeling of loss. Overall, I think this album is bookended, specifically in its standard edition, by its strongest tracks, some of my favorites being Gangbang, I Don't Give a, Love Spent, Masterpiece, and especially Falling Free. Like I said, the moments of emotional clarity and specificity and vulnerability are my favorites on this album. I do just sort of have a preference for, I guess, sad and cathartic songs, but the angry songs on this album I think were also really fun. I could tell from the comments that this wasn't a universally liked album, but I'm really glad that I went into it with an open mind because there was a lot to love about it, so thank you to all of you who voted for this album, and please let me know in the comments down below what music I should react to next, and what other topics you'd like to see me cover on my channel. Check the description for that donation link. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos most weeks, I think, as often as I can. This summer's gonna be kind of weird, but I really appreciate your patience. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and until next time, that's it.